For those people unfamiliar with my voice, my name is Peter. Last name is Mingils. As you know, we run a company called PM Marketing, or NetworkLeads, as many people know us by our domain name. What do you do when people talk back? When they ask questions, when they raise objections, or when they say statements or stuff? Questions like, how much does it cost? Or questions like, is this one of those things? Or can I do this part-time? Or does it come in red? Or is there a monthly fee? There's got to be a better way to handle the inevitable questions and or the objections or the things that people say. So we came up with a really simple way of explaining this. It doesn't matter if you know the information unless you can retrieve it and apply it when necessary. So we needed, of course, to explain some of the philosophies behind how we do things, but then also have to give you the tools. So the tools would be in the Little People Toolbox. And just as a little memory jogger, on the top left, I'm going to write down the three letters QOS. Q would stand for questions, O would stand for objections, S would stand for stuff. Now that's your toolbox. And inside your toolbox, there are 3 tools. 3. Is that going to limit me? If there are thousands available and I only need 3, am I going to shortcut myself? And the answer would be surprisingly, no. You can build a huge business if you just focus on these 3. And with the art of duplication being understood that that's important, you can teach these 3 to just about anybody that was willing to learn. The first tool I call QDC, and the Q stands for qualify, the D stands for demonstrate, the C stands for close. And then next to that, if, would, you, question mark. That is tool number 1. We call it QDC, or the good old if, would, you. Tool number 2 is the word clarify, CLARIFY, clarify. Tool number 3, translate, TRANSLATE, translate. So those are the 3 tools. And again, that's all you need. Somebody might want to add a 5th one or a 6th one or a 17th one, and I'd say you're just complicating the heck out of this. Let's not do that. Let's go into some of the explanations. QDC stands for qualify, demonstrate, close. The Q part is a qualifying question. Now what's a qualifying question? A qualifying question is a question that you'll ask that either closes the sale or gives you more information to do so. So anytime you find yourself or you're witnessing or observing a place where there's 2 or more people, their lips are moving, and they're talking about stuff, chances are someone's selling, someone's buying. If you didn't sell your product or your service, then you probably bought their objection. So which one did you buy?
Oh, now I know what you mean. I guess I bought the husband objection.
I guess I bought the I can't do it now objection.
If there are 2 or more people, their lips are moving, they're talking about stuff, someone's selling, someone's buying. So I don't freak out or get really nervous or upset anytime I use the word sale. So here's the way it works. So remember, a qualifying question, getting back to tool number 1, the Q part, is a question that you're going to ask that's either going to close the sale or it's going to give you more information to do so. What's a demonstration? That's the D part of QDC. A demonstration is something you do or you say or you show. Many times it either satisfies a condition or it answers a question. So it's something you're going to do. C, what does the C stand for in QDC? C stands for close. If you were working like the California State Fair, and you know that there were millions of people walking through the California State Fair, but they weren't coming back anytime soon, and you were selling T-shirts at the California State Fair, well, then you'd either make the sale then or you'd never make the sale at all. So there are some situations like that. So you give them special pricing, consideration, help them make a decision, grab their wallet, whatever you need to do to make the sale. If you do that in our industry many times, you can still make the sale. But what's the point? Unless they want to do something, then you're not going to get the duplication you need. All right, so you did a lot of talking. 3 or 5 minutes later, what do you have? And if you're ever saying, I don't know, then I think maybe we can improve on that. So what we would do is we would ask first. We'd throw in the qualifying question, the simplest formula being, if blah, 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 would you blah, blah, blah. And we would ask, if I could show you how to do it part-time, would you want to? And the want to would be the action step. So the formula for the QDC, or the good old if would you, goes, if, state the condition, comma, would you, action step, question mark. Usually the typical response is going to be, yes, sure, that sounds great, I'd love to start part-time. No, no way, I would never do this. Or something else. What we're going to do is we're going to say, if I could show you can do it part-time, would you want to? And they will either say yes, no, or something else. And we will be helping them to make a decision. So what will you do? You open up your Little People Toolbox. You'll use tool number 1, which you heard so far was the good old if would you, and you'll say, listen, would you want to learn more? Or would you want to join? Or would you want to learn the benefits of getting started with us? Practice it, and just remember those 3 words. The good old if would you do just fine. Next, clarify. That's tool number 2. I've learned a long time ago that people don't always mean what they say, or they don't always say what they mean. So there's room for miscommunication or lack of communication. So therefore, since there could be 5, 6, 7, 10 different reasons, what are the possibilities of you getting it right with that limited amount of information? Well, if you choose to run your business with a 1 out of 5 chance or 1 out of 10 chance or worse, you're crazy. What happens when somebody says, I don't have the money? What does that mean? Well, one of the scenarios might mean, I'm a little bit, tapped out right now. I don't have the money now because I got a lot of bills and I'll have the money next month. Some people might say, I don't have the money because they just spent a lot. So we have a simple formula for clarifying. It's so simple, all you have to do really is remember 3 questions. Here are the 3 questions. One of them is 4 words long. Another one is 6 words long, and the last one is 7 words long. How do you mean? Those are 4 words. How do you mean is one of those wonderful things that gets your prospect talking. Second one is 6 words. What do you mean by that? It more or less says the same thing. It gets them talking, and then we'll explain. The third question is, why would you ask me that now? 7 words. That's a great one to kind of stop the grinding, like when some people say, well, how much are you making? So when they say, well, how much are you making? Wouldn't it make sense? You'd say, well, how do you mean? Because I don't know where they're coming from. If I should tell them or not tell them, if I'm allowed to tell them or not tell them, whatever. And they might say something like, well, Peter, I think really highly about you, and for you to spend any of your time doing this, I figured it'd have to be worthwhile. Or they might say, well, I figured if you're doing it for a year and a half and you're not making any money at it, I'm not going to make any money at it. And I bet you I would handle both scenarios a little bit differently if I knew. So that's why you clarify. Remember 3 questions. How do you mean? What do you mean by that? And why would you ask me that now? The third tool is called translate. Now, how do I mean translate? Well, people don't always say what they mean, or people don't always mean what they say, and sometimes they say it really bad. Sometimes you should really say it better. I'll use as an example. So remember, the heart of translate means, I heard what you said, but I think what you meant was something else. Those are the 12 words, by the way, in translate. I heard what you said, but I think what you meant was, and then here's the key, you get a chance to say it better. You're going to run across some people that say things like, I'm flat out broke. And you might say, well, how do you mean, right? We'll use tool number 2. And they'll say, well, I'm flat out broke because of whatever, whatever. And then you might say, I heard what you said, but I think what you meant was, you're really in a position where you need to make more money. Or some people might say,
no, those things, you're not talking about one of those pyramid things, are you?
Those things just really stink.
And I might say, well, how do you mean? Like, we'll use tool number 2 again, and he'll start explaining about whatever and whatever and whatever, and I'll say, oh, now I'll use tool number 3. I heard what you said about the whatever, but I think what you meant was, you're looking for a legitimate business where that sort of thing will never happen. Here's the fun part about translate. It's only 12 words. I heard what you said, but I think what you meant was. Here's the amazing thing about our Little People Toolbox. So far, I've asked you to remember 3 words in tool number 1. If, blah, 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 would you, blah, 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 or the good old if would you. Those are the 3 words. In clarify, I asked you to remember 4, 6, and 7 words. How do you mean? What do you mean by that? Why would you ask me that now? In translate, I've asked you to remember 12 words. I heard what you said, but I think what you meant was, and then you get a chance to say it better. We have just taught you that you could use less than what? We do the math on this. 3 and 4 is 7, and 7 and 6 is 13, and 7 more is 20. 32 words. I have asked you to remember just 32 words in those 3 little tools in that Little People Toolbox, and you can handle all or almost all of the questions, objections, and or the statements or stuff that people say. Say, for instance, someone says, I'm really broke. If this is going to cost any money, I don't want to have anything to do with this. People don't always say what they mean or mean what they say, or sometimes they say things badly. I'm totally broke. If this is going to cost me any money, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Tool number 2 might be, well, how do you mean? Well, he might say, well, I got 2 kids in college. I have my wife, and she's pregnant with our baby, and 2 kids in school, and we're having a baby that I never thought I'd be having. and she doesn't want to go back to work when she's finished, so now I'm taking a look at additional expenses because of college. We have my wife, who is now not going back to work. I'm going to have to worry about the additional income that I'll have to make, and I'm really broke. I really can't afford to take any chances right now. Then I might translate. I might say things like, ooh, I heard what you said, but I think what you meant was you are really in a position where you need to make a lot of money. And that person would probably say, yeah, I need to make at least another $20,000 a year to compensate for what she won't be making and the other additional expenses I have. Then I would probably use tool number 1, which would go, well, if I could show you how working with us could help you make that extra $20,000 this year, would you want to learn more? And that he would obviously say either yes, no, or something else. That's how you use the Little People Toolbox. You can use that Little People Toolbox anytime anyone throws you a question or raises an objection or even says statements and or stuff. All right, so thanks for listening in.